Okay, for those studying the poem, I remember District 6 by Prophets of the City. I'm going to read it to you and try and translate some of the Afrikaans there for you, because you won't find this kind of Afrikaans in a standard Afrikaans dictionary, if you know what I'm saying. So, full disclosure, I am not Capetonian. I do understand some of it, and I'll explain what I do, and certainly hope it will help you out. But you do need the poem in front of you if you are studying it. Okay, so here we go. Ek is 'n laaitie van die ses. Laaitie, that word laaitie, L-A-A-I-T-I-E, is very similar to the American word shorty. I know that shorty in America normally speaks about a young lady, but sometimes also speaks about a little boy. In South Africa, it's an Afrikaans word, but it comes from the English word light, as in lightweight. And it's a word that we use for young boys. Okay, so when we say ek is 'n laaitie van die ses. So that funny is supposed to be fundy. In other words, I'm a young boy of the 6, obviously District 6, right? I'm a young boy who comes from District 6, basically. Daai's wat ek opgegroei het. What it would say in standard Afrikaans is, that's where I grew up. It would say, daai's wat ek opgegroei het, right? In other words, that's where I grew up. District 6, sien jy, ja. Okay, ja, jammer. Okay, it's like District 6, do you see? Yeah, okay. It'll make a bit more sense if you actually go and listen to this rap. And if I can find it, I'll put a link in the description, but it is available on YouTube. You can find it for yourself, okay? Then he goes, I remember the days in District 6. I remember the days in District 6. The laughter of the adults and little kids. Hanover Street, very famous street in Cape Town, and Market Loepies. Loepies comes from the word loop of loepies, which means little strolls. So in other words, he's saying the way we used to walk to the market, okay? Guma music. Guma music is a very traditional kind of music in South Africa, again from the Western Cape, based on the Guma drum. You can go and research that for more information, okay? But it's based on the Guma drum, very, very tied in with Western Cape culture. Guma music was always the heartbeat. I remember the days in District 6, the sound of the snoek horn. You probably know about snoek. Snoek is a kind of fish, very popular again in the Western Cape, also very delicious. And the Owens used to broke with a lekker song. Okay, Owens basically means the dudes, so, or the guys, right? The young guys. Okay, you might have heard South Africans say oaks. This is another version of that word, Owens, okay? The mister with the perd and car. Okay, perd is a horse. Car, in this case, would be a wagon. So when he goes, the mister with the perd and car, he's like that dude with the horse and carriage, or horse and wagon, I suppose. Horse and cart, I think is a better way of saying it. The mister with the perd and car used to collect scrap iron. Okay, so basically he's described how he lives there, or how he lived in District 6 when he was younger. As a boy, they used to enjoy walking to the market. They used to enjoy the traditional Cape music called Guma music. He describes it as their heartbeat. He obviously must have loved eating snoek. I mean, who doesn't? And they would obviously blow a horn, and then you'd know that there was snoek. And there'd be a man with a horse and cart who would go and collect scrap iron, obviously to sell, right? As a laaitie, again, laaitie, a young boy, I was crying, and on my oor there was a trankie. That O over there is his oog, his eye. A trankie is a little tear. If I didn't have a wynkie or a wynkie is a little wagon. You know, the little wagons that boys used to pull. I think, was it in the 60s? I don't know exactly. But a little wagon that those boys used to pull in the olden days, before I was born. Okay. I used to take my sail plankie and rub it with kersvet and sunlight soap. Okay, so plankie is a plank, a little plank, right? And obviously he would sail on it, or sort of slide on it, right? And he said he would rub it with kersvet, that means candle wax, the fat of the candle, and sunlight soap. Now, sunlight soap is an all-purpose soap that we use here in South Africa. Literally can be used as shampoo if you need, can be used as dishwashing liquid, People use it sometimes to dreadlock their hair, particularly if you don't have hair that's typically dreadlocked. So it's really a very versatile kind of a soap. And when you need something fatty, you'd put sunlight soap on it. And he's going to describe why he would sort of put this oily sealant on the bottom of this plank, right? Okay. He goes, rub it with Kaaps and sunlight soap and sail down Upper Shepherd Street slopes. So obviously he and his friends would have this plank and they would love to slide down the road and they would rub it with soap and candle wax and all the rest of it. This is the heart and soul of the young and own. Without District 6, we're in the cold. Now then, my father used to gooi a braai. Gooi in South Africa means to throw something. That's the literal meaning. It can also mean to pour something. But we use it for anything, right? Anything that we'd like to initiate. We say gooi. If I wanted you to throw a ball at me, I'd say gooi. If I wanted you to pour me a cup of coffee, I'd say gooi. If I wanted to throw a party, I'd say, I'm going to gooi a party. Right? So he's saying gooi a braai. Braai is the very traditional South African barbecue that we have. Okay, it's a bit more complex than a typical barbecue, but it's very important to people of all cultures, right? So, now and then my father used to gooi a braai. On Sundays we used to jump in the Valiant and go to Houtbaai. So I'm guessing the Valiant must have been their car, and he said now and then they would go to Houtbaai. Houtbaai or Hout Bay, it literally means wooden bay. It's a place where you go in Cape Town to eat delicious fish and chips. Very famous for that. Lovely. For krief and snoek, or we would just go take a look. Okay. Krief over here says crayfish. So the correct Afrikaans word is kreef, but he would say krief. So it's just different kinds of fish that they were eating at Houtbaai. Or he says just take a look. Okay, so basically he's describing all the kinds of celebrations they had as a kid. Sometimes they would have barbecues, a braai. Sometimes they would go to Houtbaai or Houtbaai. Sorry, Houtbaai is how you say it in Afrikaans. I'm getting my Afrikaans and English confused. But again, it's this wonderful place where you eat lots of fish and chips, and he would go and have these different kinds of fish, okay? I remember the cool cats on the hook. A hook is a corner. So obviously there were cool cats, as in gangsters probably, standing on the corner. And how the mobsters used to floek. So he's purposely spelled mobsters like that, but he means mobsters. Floek means to swear. Okay, so I remember how the mobsters used to swear. When they get gerook. Rook comes from the word rook, which means they were smoking. So when they were done smoking their drugs, I don't know how do you smoke drugs. When they were done smoking their drugs, they would stand on the corner and swear and curse and cuss, okay? And we had competitions to see who had the loudest boop. So obviously it was the little boy, and he and his friends would compete to see who would have the loudest fart, okay? And we had problems with the group. So in this case, he's referencing the Group Areas Act, which is relevant to this poem. And we're going to understand now why in the poem. The problems with the group, and my oma used to skell from the stoep. Skell means to shout and scold, and stoep is obviously the front porch, right? So he's saying that when the Apartheid Group Areas Act people were coming around, his grandmother used to stand on the front porch and shout at them, okay? Saying, Julle boere moet loop. So his grandmother obviously, because the white people were going to take them and move them into different areas, his grandmother used to shout at the white people and say, you guys need to go. So loop means loop or walk. Okay, remember we spoke about loopies before. Okay, then the refrain, I remember the days in District 6, I remember the days in District 6. We used to go to school at Zonnebloem, and my cousins used to go to George Golding. Okay, just describing the schools they went to. I remember the whole thing as if it was yesterday, the way we used to play Oupa Jimmy, Jimmy, kom oor die brug. Basically, that's a rhyme, like Ring Ring Rosies or whatever. It's a children's street game filled with rhyme and all that sort of thing, right? Skululu and Kenneki. Okay, again, those are different kinds of children's street games, okay? Every weekend we used to go to the mountain and fetch dannabola. Okay, dannabola in this case, it's supposed to be dennabola. It's pine cones. They would collect pine cones, okay? I remember the huis jol. Jol in South Africa is a word that means party. Huis means house, so a house party, right? So he's just once again speaking about his memories as a young person. How he used to skit gaitjies and klap tol. Skit gaitjies. Gaitjie means a hole. Skit means to shoot. So when you played the game skit gaitjies, it was like you make a hole in the ground and you would like collect marbles and you'd sort of shoot them. You'd sort of do that with your finger and shoot them into the hole. And I don't know, whoever got the most in won the marbles. I don't remember I played it long ago when I was a little kid, but I really don't remember. While the girls played hankies and netball. Okay, the girls played hankies. Hankies means hands, so when girls play these kinds of games, that's what he means. And netball, I'm not sure who my audience is. If you are South African, or if you're from another part of the world, it depends. In some countries in the world, we play a game called netball, typically associated with girls. I don't know of any boys that compete in it at all. So traditionally, at school, boys would go play soccer and we'd go play netball. It's a little bit like basketball, but a lot more tame, right? It's a British game, I believe, for ladies, you see, so it's comparatively tame. A bit restrictive as well, comparatively, okay. I remember sago pudding in tamati bredi. Again, different kinds of meals, okay? And when we became the needy, the neighbors would always keep their door open. Okay, so in South Africa, the community about whom this is speaking is the colored community. And it doesn't matter, like I'm Joburg, but these people are from Cape Town. It doesn't matter if you're Cape Town, Durban, or Joburg. But this community, the mixed race community in South Africa, is an incredibly generous community. And if you live there, we would go through different cycles, like I'm broke, but you're not, you're broke, but I'm not. But when you grow up in the community, one of the nicest things that you have is that you always know there's going to be a door open. You don't go hungry because you always know that you can go and eat at auntie next door's house, right? So that's what he means. When we became the needy, the neighbors would always keep their door open. In fact, to be honest, the way I grew up, you didn't know who was coming home for supper. Other kids might just show up and eat, no questions asked, they get a plate. And you could just show up at someone else's house. Sometimes you're needy, sometimes you just want to hang out. Nobody asks questions. You just eat together, right? In times of hardship, surviving District 6 was hard work, but we could always depend on the neighbors' support. Yes, I can relate to that, even though I'm not from Cape Town. We had that a lot in the Joburg coloured community. So just a footnote here, if you're not South African and you find it strange that I'm using the word coloured in a positive way, it is a word that has very positive connotations, at least for us here in South Africa, right? It speaks to us about colourfulness. Okay, it's what we call the mixed race people. Cool. So I'm taking it back to the dry dock, the Upper Ashley Street and the 7 Steps, where the Mensa slept during the summer with the fences kept open. Mensa are people, so he's saying where the people slept during the summer with their windows kept open, okay? Ja, nuwe jaar was altyd warm. Okay, yes, New Year was always warm, okay? A little bit of historical significance around nuwe jaar. New Year in Cape Town is incredibly important because Cape Town has a history of slavery. The majority, if not 100% of the enslaved, their descendants are now mixed race people. So just to be clear, not all mixed race people in South Africa are descendant of the enslaved, but all the enslaved have mixed race descendants, right? No monoracial descendants. Literally mixed race people, because people, especially in Cape Town, were brought to the Cape from all over the world. Malaysia, Angola, Madagascar. They were brought there, and then also with like all of the over the centuries, all of the what's the word when people move to a country, immigrants, all of the immigration we've also had in South Africa has contributed to why mixed race people in South Africa are the most diverse mixed race people in the world. But in Cape Town specifically, with this history of slavery, the enslaved weren't allowed to celebrate anything except on the 2nd of January. So they would call it the Tweede Nuwe Jaar, and they have a big festival to this day called the Kaaps, which is where in the olden days, they used to be able to dress up and mock their slaveholders. They were allowed to. They took inspiration from the American minstrels who visited there, and they would paint their faces and do all those kinds of things. And they would dress in colorful outfits. And if you just listen to music from that period, it's so filled with joy because it was the one day they were allowed to be free. And so even after slavery, which was abolished in about, I think, I want to say 1860, or was it 1830? I don't recall. The Kaaps festival went on, and it still goes on today. It's a beautiful jazz festival. And so the 2nd of January was always warm. Again, if you're not South African, that might not make sense to you. Down here in South Africa, we have summer at Christmas and New Year's time, right? And so, yes, January is the height of summer for us, whereas July is like freezing. So he says, New Year was always warm. We had klopse in langarm. So klopse I just spoke to you about. It was the Cape minstrels. Langarm related to a style of balloon dancing. It's a kind of dancing that they would do, okay? We used to slut nut with a lekker stuk vasttrap. Man, how do I even... Okay, we used to slut nut. Okay. It's... When you say slut nut, it's like they beat wet, or they would go wild or do something without hesitation. They would just, slut nut is like, they just do something spontaneously. I think that's the best way of explaining it, right? With a lekker stuk vasttrap. Okay, so I wonder if I'm misinterpreting this. A stuk, they're saying a piece of a dance. They would just spontaneously dance yes, I think I've got it. They would spontaneously dance with a nice piece of music for their vasttrap dance. Okay, stuk means a piece, vasttrap is the type of dance. We used to yup the ice cream buck, okay? They used to pinch or steal the ice cream bowl. Gaat sit agter in 'n yard en vreet skelmpies in die hok. Okay, so they said they would go sit at the back of the yard and they would eat sneakily. So they would steal a little piece of ice cream and they would go sit at the back of the yard and sneakily eat it, okay? This is the heart and soul of the young and old. Without District 6, we're in the cold. This is the heart and soul of District 6. Without District 6, we're in the cold. Okay, then he's got the reframe. I remember the days. I remember. Okay. Now we're moving on to... You see, he just painted this beautiful picture for us about how they lived in District 6, how when he was a little boy, they would slide down the side of the road, how he and his family would go and eat fish and have braais, how he enjoyed the New Year, how they loved to steal ice cream because in the summer sun of New Year's, all of those things. But then the forced removals, which you're going to have to research to understand this poem. You have to remember to research the forced removals of District 6, right? That's not within the scope of this video for me to tell you. But he goes, I remember when the bulldozers came. As a lighty, a young boy, it confused my brain. The sandtrokke disturbed our game. The sandtrokke, the sand trucks. What could it be? I never knew we were going to lose Upper Shepherd Street 75 and 73. Buddha, Dula, and Fauzi and Moki, Mary, and the Baptist Kerkie. Okay, basically, he's naming all the people that would lose this Upper Shepherd Street, and he named his address there. And Baptist Kerkie, think about the Scottish word kirk, so it means a church, okay, or where we were going to stay. So obviously the bulldozers came and they destroyed their homes and just moved them, I believe, to Lavender Hill, if I'm correct. I'm not 100% sure. I need to brush up on my Cape history. Or where we were going to stay. 78 to 79 was vat jou goed en trek maar vir die time. Okay, so this is an illusion. Vat jou goed en trek. Okay, so in the year 78 and 79, they were told to take your stuff and move away. But it's an allusion to a traditional Afrikaans song called Vat jou goed en trek, Ferreira, vat jou goed en trek. So if you are studying this poem, other than researching the District 6 forced removals, you're also going to have to go and research the song Vat jou goed en trek. You can literally copy it verbatim as you see it there, VAT, JOU, GOED, etc. and research it. There are stories about how the song came about. It's an allusion to that song, right? I remember selling luit and scrap irons. Luit is lead, and scrap irons, obviously scrap metal, and how we used to mines for gelukke. Okay. So people would go, mines, mines. The kids would go, mines, when they're trying to, like shotgun. For gelukke would be luck. Okay. In stukkende huise, in broken houses. They obviously had to live in broken houses. We used to find old kois and dooie meise. Okay, so once their houses were bulldozed, they had to go elsewhere, and they had to, like, they were searching, and they'd be like, that's mine, that's mine. And now they had to find old beds, and they found dirty mice, dead mice, like luise, just like lice. They threw us on the Cape Flats, sorry. And it all happened when my father ended on his back. I remember District 6. Okay, again, my video has not been exhaustive, but I hope it has been helpful. Good luck studying this poem. Bye. Please do like and subscribe if it was helpful to you.